Hey friends, this is Erinn McMurtrie, mind, body, spirit health coach, and I am here to make this video about ulcerative colitis. So I was diagnosed in 2015 with ulcerative colitis, and I wanted to make this video because I've spent a good amount of time on the internet looking for other people who have ulcerative colitis, sharing their experiences, sharing what's worked, what hasn't worked, sharing their symptoms, sharing their triggers. This disease is, like everything, I guess, is so unique for every single person. And that's why I think it's so important that we share with each other what our experiences are, what we've gone through, what's helped, what hasn't helped, and where we need support, because there's a lot of people out there who are dealing with this and who aren't really able to get a whole lot of helpful answers from Western medicine. And so I think it's really important that we share and connect with each other. So that's my intention. I'm going to be sharing about my experience here pretty vulnerably. For those that don't know what ulcerative colitis is or what it entails, it's a lot of very vulnerable stuff like diarrhea, hemorrhoids, talking about bowel movements, talking about blood, talking about pain, talking about urgency, running to the bathroom 10, 15 times a day. So I want to share from a place of vulnerability, because I know that being embarrassed about talking about these things really isn't supporting anyone. And one of the things that I've learned through this journey is we all poop. We all have buttholes. We all have all these parts and have all these symptoms sometimes, and there's really nothing to be ashamed of. And it's really helped me to just kind of appreciate my body and appreciate things that I might used to have been embarrassed to talk about. For example, like I've gone months, you guys, months without having a proper bowel movement. And I'm sure there's people out there who have gone years. I know there are. I have friends with Crohn's and colitis. And you know, there's really nothing more satisfying than having a proper bowel movement. So if you've never experienced going that long without having a proper bowel movement, I urge you to appreciate every single solid and awesome poop that you have. For those of you that are going through this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm really gonna share, I think starting off, my symptoms, how this all started for me, and my journey with discovering I had it, with the symptoms, to the doctor's experiences, to all that. And my intention again is to help those of you who might be struggling with this or might have questions around this that aren't able to get answers, and want just to hear about other people's experiences, just to know that you're not alone, and to hear about other things that may have helped. I know also that colitis can vary so much with symptoms. We're all so unique. And so sometimes when doctors use blanket terms to describe certain things, like flares, for example, I'm like, I don't know what you mean by that. I know what I experience, but I don't know what generally people experience. So I just want to get this out into the open. I want to share my experience because I know that I have not gone through all this crap for nothing. I went through this crap so that I could help people, and hopefully you're one of those people. And if not, if nothing else, I just hope that you know that you're not alone, and that there are other people out there who have gone through this too, and that I'm here as a support and a resource if you ever want to reach out. So, okay, so going back to childhood, I can remember being in the bathroom and having diarrhea, and not really knowing there was anything wrong or weird about it, just really knowing that it was uncomfortable and that I didn't enjoy it. But I feel like as kids, or at least for me, whatever's happening in front of us is just like what's happening. We don't necessarily know that it's bad or wrong unless someone tells us that. And so I didn't know that diarrhea was like something that was wrong or worrisome. I just knew it was what was happening. So if I think back, I always had, you know, a tender digestive system. So as I said, I was diagnosed in 2015. Right now, for those of you who are watching this video into the future, it's January 2019. So in 2013 is when I started to see like real legitimate worrisome symptoms that I knew something was wrong. And what I saw was blood in my bowel movements. And so by that, what I mean is like a well-formed bowel movement with like a streak of blood in it, or like a little bit of blood in the actual bowel movement. And so when I saw that, I was like, okay, what is that? Is that blood? Am I on my period? I'm not really sure. What do I do about that? And so I didn't really do anything. I remember I told my fiance at the time, my husband now, and, you know, I would tell him like, oh, I'm starting to see this and I'm not really sure what it is and it doesn't really seem good. At the time I worked at an acupuncture and massage school. And so I was getting free acupuncture once a week, which was awesome. And I told my acupuncturist, hey, I'm seeing blood in my bowel movements, like probably once a week or once every couple weeks, and what do you think about that? And she was like, oh yeah, it's probably just like a hemorrhoid or something, you know, I wouldn't worry about it, and like we'll do a little bit of treatment on that. I'm like, okay. And so I was like, okay, well that's enough of a brush off for me to feel comfortable. And so I just kind of ignored it and kept getting acupuncture, and over time it started to get worse and worse. It would be a little bit, you know, it would be a little streak, and then it would be like a big streak, and it started at like once a week, and then it would go to like every day. And so it started to just develop more and more and more, and I just kept ignoring it because I didn't want to go to the doctor. I had a lot of judgment around doctors, Western medicine, medication, fear obviously about knowing what the heck was going on. But at some point, I think it was 2015, was when it started getting bad enough that I was like, okay, this is really bad. Like, I have to do something about it. This isn't getting better. And so I went to a doctor and I shared with him what was going on. And he's like, okay, well, you know, we can take you in the other room. I can have you undress. I can look up your rectum and we can check and see what's going on. But most likely it's just a hemorrhoid. So, you know, do you have any abdominal pain? At that point, I did not have any abdominal pain. And so he's like, okay, well, as long as you don't have abdominal pain, there's not really anything we can do. There's not really any cause for worry. Just try to eat more fiber. That was pretty much the only support or feedback I got, was eat more fiber. So not a lot of support, as you can imagine, or as you may have experienced. So I went home, and about a week later, I started getting bad abdominal pain. So I went back. I called the doctor. I said, hey, I need to see the doctor. And they said, okay, we'll get you in 2 or 3 weeks. And I said, no, you'll get me in this week. This is an emergency. And so they did. And I saw the doctor and I told him, hey, you know, I have abdominal pain now. So what's our next step? And pretty much before I could even like take a breath, he was calling in the nurse. She was running in with a scope, and they had me flipped over to literally look up my butthole with a scope. And at the time, I was freaking out, right? Like I didn't know what was happening to my body. I was getting sick and I had no idea why. I was relatively healthy. I take care of myself. I don't drink a lot of alcohol. Like, you know, I'm healthy. And I'm like 20, I don't know, I was 25 at the time or something. And, you know, so looking back, I really wish that the doctor would have like taken a breath, looked me in the eye, seen that I was like about to burst into tears, and said like, okay, you know, is this okay? We're gonna do this right now and everything's gonna be okay, you know. That's a whole other tangent we could go off on how Western medicine could really do better at being present with people and connecting with people's hearts and offering emotional support. So so he looked at my butt basically, and he was like, yeah, I see hemorrhoids, I see, you know, inflammation. I'm going to refer you to a specialist, and he's probably going to order you a colonoscopy. So a colonoscopy is they give you this drink that you drink the night before, and it like makes everything rush out of your digestive system, like diarrhea, just cleans you out, so that the next day they put you under and they put a long scope up your colon, up your butthole, and up around your large intestine, all the way down to your small intestine, because they want to check, is this inflammation just in the colon, or is it also in the small intestine? Now, if it is in the small intestine, and it could also be into other areas like the like your throat, your esophagus, that's Crohn's disease. So they wanted to check, okay, do you have Crohn's or colitis? So it came back that I had colitis. There wasn't any any inflammation in my my small intestine. It was in my left side, which is the descending colon. So your colon goes up and around and down and then out. And so the down part, right before it goes out to your butthole, that's where my inflammation was. So once they confirmed that, they offered me pharmaceutical drugs, obviously. And because they really couldn't, offer me anything else. I think that's probably the case now that most of you are finding. And I was like, no, I'm not gonna take medication. Like, I don't really believe in that. I don't really like Western medicine. Like, I just was like, no, I'm gonna do this on my own. So I had gone to a couple people. I went to a naturopathic doctor and some other people, and I had a family friend who's a renowned iridologist. And so iridology is the study of the iris. So they literally, in this science, they see the iris as a map of the body. And so I have a family friend who's, like I said, a renowned iridologist in the field. And so I went to see her, and she took photos of my iris. Excuse me. And she was like, okay, I can see what's going on, and I can help you. I've helped people heal from cancer before. Like, I can help you. So she put me on a strict diet of basically no inflammatory foods like gluten, dairy, like corn, processed foods, no sugar. The only sugar I was eating was like very low sugar fruit. So like berries, organic berries, and organic green apples, because they're so low in sugar. And then she had me on a bunch of other things. Herbs, bentonite clay, this tea that I was making from fresh herbs. So all of this stuff, I was on this regimen for, I don't know, probably 6 months. After a month or two, I started to see that my body was actually getting better. There was a lot of improvement, and so I stuck with it. I stuck with it until it was all gone and I was back to normal, and that was awesome. And it was really, really cool to see my body respond to all of these herbs and to rest. I rested a lot. I was probably taking 2 to 4 hour naps 5 days a week. Like my body was exhausted, and I really believe now in the power of sleep and how much sleep can actually speed up the healing process. Because I remember waking up from those naps and being like, whoa, I don't know what just happened, but I just like went deep down into like the healing core of the earth. Like I could feel how much my body needed that rest and needed that time to regenerate. So about 1.5 years later, I was going through some really, really rough stuff in my relationship with my husband. And emotionally, it was taking its toll. And I started to see symptoms coming back again. And I didn't really want to address it as seriously as I had the time before. I was like, I healed before naturally, like I'll be okay. It'll get better. It didn't get better. It got a lot worse. And I didn't want to do anything about it. I didn't want to go to the doctor. I didn't want to take medication because I knew that was the only option they were going to offer me. And so I just basically let it get worse and worse, which I would never do again. It got so bad that I was having diarrhea, running to the bathroom 10 to 20 times a day. And my butt was so raw. I was in so much pain. I couldn't even sleep. I was like crying on the toilet, having diarrhea. Couldn't eat, couldn't even really drink water, couldn't do anything. I was just in constant pain. And I remember one day I was laying in my bed and my mom was coming over to take care of me because my husband was at work. And she knocked on the door, and I got up out of bed to go answer the door. And all of a sudden I got super dizzy. And I remember I put my hands down on the couch to like brace myself. And then all of a sudden my body started to shake. I was like, it felt like I was having a seizure. I've never had a seizure before, but that's what I imagine it felt like. My mind literally was like somewhere else. I can't even explain it, but my mind was like, oh, this is funny. Why am I making these weird, like, why is my body doing this? It was like I wasn't even really there. And once I came to, I was like, holy shit, like that is not okay. I need to go to the hospital. So I answered the door, I let my mom in, and I went to the emergency room, and they took care of me. They put me on steroids and gave me medication, and anyways, it was awful. And I ended up leaving after that. I was there for a few hours in the emergency room, and I felt better, but I left, and then a week later I still was not better. So I went back in, and I was in for 3 days, and they, gave me the steroids, and they were taking my blood every 4 hours because they were just basically waiting for the point that they had to give me a blood transfusion because I had basically no blood left. I had been bleeding out for months. So it was quite scary. It was really scary. So after that, I was able to heal on medication. And this experience was really so powerful for me because I had so much judgment around medication and around Western medicine. And then I had this experience of both of them saving my life. And I still had a lot of judgment around it. After I was finally better, my doctor was like, I want you to stay on this medication for 2 years so that your body can just get solidly better and go into full remission. And I was like, I've been better for X amount of months. I don't need to stay on this. I'm gonna get off this at the end of the year. And I did. And I was okay for a couple months. And then I went on a trip to Hawaii, a retreat. And on the whole trip, we were served amazing, beautiful, healthy food grown from the earth. And I felt better than I had in years. I was like, oh my God, I feel so good. This is the best I've felt ever, maybe. And on the final night of my trip, we went to a restaurant that one of my friends worked at, and I ordered my food. And interestingly enough, they accidentally gave my order to a different table. And so as an apology, they brought all of this fried food to our table. French fries, onion rings, bread, dips, all this stuff that I did not order. And I ate some of it because I was hungry. I ate some French fries. And I think that they were cooking their food in some rancid oil. And my belly was not happy. And the next day, I felt like someone had literally punched me in the gut. And all of a sudden, very fast, my symptoms started to come back. And I was like, oh my God, this is scary. Talked to my doctor. He prescribes the medication again. I went back on it, and he was like, look, this is exactly why we want you to stay on it, because if something can trigger you that quickly, it's just not worth it. And I was like, you know what? It isn't worth it. It isn't worth it for me to be in fear that any meal that I have is going to send me back into a spiral of these symptoms. So I've been on the medication now for a year. This was last February that happened. It's now the end of January. And I've been fine. I've been symptom free. I still have a lot of tenderness in my belly. I have, gas a lot. I don't always have solid bowel movements. It's a delicate balance of keeping my body and my digestive system well and happy and supported. And thank you for being here and listening. I hope that just sharing about my experience has helped in some way, has helped you understand yourself in some way, or helped you not feel alone. I'm by no means saying that what I've done is the right path for everybody else, because I do think that we are all so unique and so different, and our bodies are calling for different things. But I do think it's really important to share so that we all can feel like we're together, because I've felt so alone through this experience. I have. And it is like the worst feeling ever. And going to the doctors a lot of times is not an experience that has you feel emotionally supported. And that's why I think it's so important for us to connect and share, for us to become resources for each other around this. And I think that the more of us share our experience, the more that we can all learn about, just the collective and what's happening. And so thanks for being here. Thanks for like holding space for all of this vulnerable stuff for me to share with you about poop and butthole and diarrhea. I mean, it's not the most it's not the most thrilling conversation, but it is really, really important conversation, especially for those of us that have gone through this, who are going through this. Just want you to know that you're not alone, you're supported. And I'm gonna post another video shortly about how I manage ulcerative colitis naturally on top of the medication that I'm using, the things that I do that I found that are helpful, the foods that I found that are triggering, the other things that I do to maintain my own like inner centeredness. Not because I think everybody, should do the exact same thing, but I think that some of these things can be helpful for you to connect with what's right for you, and maybe they can be helpful for you too. I don't know. But I know they've certainly been helpful for me. So that'll be my next video. Thanks for sticking on here. I hope this has been supportive for you. You can go to my website. It's erinnmcmurtrie.com. I'm also at Erinn with 2 N's on Instagram. Feel free to email me or reach out or DM. I would love to connect with you. My passion is all about really bridging the gap between Western medicine and between a lot of the self-healing and Eastern medicine and old world healing techniques, and to bring forward conversations around health and healing and prosperity that aren't something that you can necessarily speak with your Western medicine doctor about, because a lot of us are having these issues and the only options that are presented to us through Western medicine most of the time is medication. And medication is helpful and can be life-saving and life-changing and all those good things, but it's not the whole picture. There's so much more that we can be doing to help supplement that medication, maybe even sometimes instead of medication. So I'm not here to judge what path is right for you. I'm just here to share my path in hopes that it is helpful for you in some way. So thank you for being here. Again, please feel free to reach out. I would love to connect with you, and have a beautiful day, and blessings to you on your healing journey and on your body and on yourself. You're loved and seen and not alone, my friend.